All right, man, peace. So, brothers, before this season started, especially after I was able to see Daniel Jones in some of these preseason games, I stated to certain cats that also follow the National Football League that by week 5, Daniel Jones would be the starter for the New York Giants. A lot of people poo-pooed me. The Giants actually exceeded my expectations and pulled the plug on Eli Manning after just 2 games, which doesn't surprise me at all because, to be quite honest with you, they wanted to pull the plug on this dude a couple of years ago, but they couldn't. All they had was Geno Smith. This notion that Eli is so incensed that he's going to be benched for Daniel Jones, I'm just not buying it. For anyone who understands the origins of Daniel Jones, he has connections to the Manning family. He basically was handpicked by Eli, Archie, and Peyton to replace Eli Manning, so they all knew that this was coming. Eli Manning has never been a great quarterback. He's had a couple of historically great playoff runs, and that makes people believe that he should be a Hall of Famer when he shouldn't. Will he be? Yes, there's no doubt about that. When you combine the 2 Super Bowls, the fact that he was MVP in both, the additional fact that he defeated Tom Brady in both, and that his last name is Manning, he definitely is going to not only be a Hall of Famer, but most likely a first ballot Hall of Famer, because the Manning family to the NFL is like what the Kardashian family name is to reality TV. They ring bells. There's no doubt about that. Mr. Warren Moon, one of the great quarterbacks of the last 40 years, sat down with this crew here to discuss the Giants' decision and how it's going to impact Eli Manning. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
All right, moving on to a topic that's been bothering Mike Babcock all day long, hardcore New York Giants fan. Eli Manning, it was announced today, he has been moved to the bench, man. Daniel Jones, the 6th overall pick in the NFL draft, he's going to get the starting nod going into week 3, and it seems like the Eli Manning era is over. Babcock, you've been upset about this all day.
Yeah, man, since 2004, the Giants have had a steady presence at quarterback, won 2 Super Bowls.
But if by steady you mean consistent, absolutely not. Eli Manning actually has been consistently bad the last 5 years or so.
Eli Manning, and it's over. It's over.
Yeah, so
it's sad, man. I'm sad today.
I think that Eli could be a great backup quarterback on a very good team, though.
I mean, we can debate this till we're blue in the face, but the fact of the matter is we don't know nearly as much about this topic as the next guest that we have. We're honored to have the great Warren Moon joining us right now on TV Sports.
If Warren Moon were playing today, he'd be putting up numbers along the lines of a Patrick Mahomes. I'll never forget when I first started watching football in the early 90s. 1990 was my first year really watching the game and focusing on what the game was actually about. Warren Moon was putting up unbelievable numbers. Him and Jim Kelly were quarterbacks who were passing for 4,000 plus yards every year, and back then 4,000 yards was like what 5,000 yards is today. It was Warren Moon, Jim Kelly, and of course the great Dan Marino, who were putting up these huge, unbelievable numbers. And I think Joe Montana also had a 4,000-yard season in his last full year as a starting quarterback for the 49ers. But the issue that Warren Moon always had was that he tended to come up very small in the playoffs. But when it comes to having the ability to spin the football, no one's ever thrown a prettier pass than Warren Moon.
How are you?
How you guys doing today?
We're great. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, man. Everyone is talking about Eli Manning. Did the Giants make a mistake? Are they making a mistake by sending Eli to the bench in week 2?
Absolutely not. The Giants made a mistake in starting Eli Manning from week 1.
Oh, I don't think so. It might be a little bit early for what I thought with a rookie coming in and Daniel Jones to be the heir apparent, but
there's only one way to learn. You got to throw him in there.
I guess they feel like this is the time to do it. I thought they would probably wait maybe 4 or 6 games into the season.
That's what I thought as well.
Let some of those receivers get back healthy onto the roster again, like Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard. You don't want your young guy to go out there without all the weapons that he needs to be successful. But they must feel like it's time to make that change now because of who they're playing and where they are in the schedule. So you have to go along with it. You know it was going to come along at some point. You just didn't know exactly when. When you draft a quarterback number 6 overall, you know that's what they're looking forward to doing. So it's just a matter of when it's going to happen.
Absolutely. I have no idea why people are shocked by this. Eli's 38 years old. He looks 48 years old. The kid Daniel Jones was looking like Aaron Rodgers in preseason. Give him a chance.
I know they wanted to treat Eli with the greatest of class in making this transition, but it's just kind of hard.
Eli always looked confused as hell. His facial expression is a combination of I'm confused and who the hell just farted.
When is the right time to do it?
Yeah, Warren, are the Giants being disrespectful respectful of Eli Manning here? The Giants are 0-2, but they didn't lose the 2 games because of Eli. The defense is pathetic. It's disgusting to watch. Are they being fair to Eli Manning here? Because he didn't lose these 2 games for them.
It's time for Eli Manning to go. He's led the entire NFL in interceptions, I believe at least 3 times. He's never been a great quarterback. He had 2 magical, historically phenomenal playoff runs. You cannot take that away from him. He's always going to be remembered, not only by Giants fans, but NFL historians. Let him go.
Like I said, I just don't know when there's a perfect time to make this change, but you knew that change was going to happen.
Plus, you want Eli Manning's salary off the books if you can get them off the books so that you can draft some offensive linemen and shore up your protection, not only for Daniel Jones, but some appropriate run blocking for the best running back in the NFL right now, Saquon Barkley.
Some point during the season, unless they got off to a great start. I think they understand that they have a young football team, they have a young quarterback they just drafted, and they probably want to bring him along with the rest of the football team. Now it's just a matter of how do you make the exit of Eli kind of classy, and I just don't think there's a good way to do it.
I have a question for you. Warren, if you're Eli Manning, how do you handle this? Like, he is a 2-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time Super Bowl MVP, that's now going to be holding a clipboard for the remainder of the season, watching a young guy come in and get his snaps. If you were talking to Eli, how would you tell Eli to handle this?
Well, I really have listened to Eli's comments over the last week or so since last week's game, and I think he maybe kind of understood this was coming. He wasn't sure exactly when it was coming.
Eli Manning's like the Forrest Gump of the NFL. After he went to Super Bowl, they asked Eli, so what'd you think about the game, Eli? Life is like a box of chocolates.
He made some of those comments that, hey, we're 0-2, we drafted a young quarterback, these things are going to happen, I just have to get ready to play the game, but they all of a sudden made the change. So I think Eli understands. He probably has been not waiting for this day, but anticipating this day for probably the last year or so, and here it is. And it's never a great reality when your career comes to an end. I remember I ended my career as a backup, but that usually happens unless you want to.
Warren Moon was a great natural athlete, though. If he was playing today, like I stated, he'd be putting up Patrick Mahomes' numbers. No doubt about it.
And retire. He's played 16 years in the National Football League. He's had great success. He's one of the top quarterbacks to play of all time. So at some point, it's going to be.
I wouldn't go that damn far.
It doesn't always end as gracefully as you want it to.
Warren, do you think Eli Manning's a Hall of Famer? That's the debate a lot of people are having today.
He definitely is a Hall of Famer. The real question is, should he be in the Hall of Fame? The answer to that, in my view, is no. Will he be in the Hall of Fame? There's no doubt about it.
As a Hall of Famer, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
I think he is, based off of his numbers and what he's able to do as a team as well. Who knows if he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or not, but
he's going to be first ballot.
He has put together a career that's Hall of Fame worthy.
That's interesting because, hearing it from you, I've heard that a lot of Hall of Famers, they don't take this kind of thing lightly. I mean, Hall of Fame voters, people who are part of the Hall of Fame, it's such a treasured, sacred group of men that, when this debate happens, people they take this very seriously, but you are.
Yes, there's no doubt about it. The NFL has the most exclusive Hall of Fame of any of the 3 American major team sports.
Firmly in the camp of Eli Manning belongs in Canton.
Well, I've just looked at his body of work, and then he's won the championships, which is something that's very important to the voters when you go into that room. I don't have a Super Bowl championship, but I was able to get inducted into the Hall of Fame. But
because you put up them numbers.
2 of them, and he was the MVP in both of those games. So that's going to bode well. Then the fact that he's played in New York, which is a city that's going to garner a lot of attention and a lot of favoritism that way as well. I think all those things are in his favor.
On a related note, we had a guy come in here named Donovan McNabb a couple months ago now. Time flies, man. And he came in here and he argued the point that he belongs in the Hall of Fame too. We all agree because we're Donovan McNabb fans, but there was a lot of blowback when he made his case. What do you think about Donovan McNabb in the Hall of Fame?
Unfortunately for Donovan McNabb, he falls into the category of if you have to toot your own horn, it's probably because you're not good enough to make the band. It's unfortunate, but that is the case. I'm not quite sure how many players of his ilk, who I would describe as borderline, have been able to campaign their way into the Hall of Fame. He definitely is not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I do think that somewhere down the line, Maybe he might have to wait 25 years or so, and then they might let him in if there's a weak class coming in. Who knows? Now, do I believe that he deserves to be in the Hall just based on the merit of his play? Yes, I do, because the dude made I believe he made 5 consecutive NFC Championship games, and he made a Super Bowl appearance. On top of that, he has some magnificent seasons. So I would sneak him in. I think that he's a better overall quarterback than Eli Manning, but he's never had the historically great playoff runs that Eli Manning was able to put together 2 separate times. That's the main difference, of course.
I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame as well. If you look at his numbers and what he did over the course of his career, he went to 4 NFC Championship games.
Okay, 4, not 5.
To a Super Bowl, and I just think when you start campaigning for this, it's not a good look, and that's not something.
Absolutely, it's definitely not a good look. You start looking like a sucker.
I do. I wish he would have never made any comments about it. I'm sure he was probably asked a question about it and he had to answer it. But that's the only thing that looks bad about Donovan being considered for the Hall of Fame, is that he was almost like he was campaigning for it. I wish he would have stayed more neutral to the answer of the question.
I think I asked him, Warren.
I have one more question for you. One last question.
Yes.
Now, you ran the run and shoot offense when you were playing, right?
One of the great offenses in the modern history of the NFL. When we think about some of the great offenses in the modern history of the NFL, which to me is when they took away a lot of the bump and run coverage that the cornerbacks were allowed to utilize in the late 1970s. So starting from the late 1970s, you had Air Coryell led by Dan Fouts. Then, of course, you had the West Coast offense led by Joe Montana and later Steve Young. You also had the great Dan Marino in the mid-'80s all the way into the early 90s. In the 1990s, you had Jim Kelly and the K-Gun offense. You had Warren Moon and the run and shoot, where he was putting up 4,000-yard passing seasons consecutively all throughout the early 90s, throwing to great players like Haywood Jeffries and Ernest Givins, etc. Then in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, you had the greatest show on turf. Those are some of the great offenses throughout the modern history of the NFL. Warren Moon, if he were playing today, wow. He'd be somewhere in that 5,300-yard to 5,500-yard range every season, no doubt.
Threw the ball around a lot, and you had crazy numbers. Let's say we take Warren Moon, 1991, and put him in today's NFL. How many yards do you think you could throw for in today's NFL?
Man, I just think it would be very, very scary.
Yeah, let me not say 5,500, maybe more like 5,100 yards, 5,100, 5,200 yards. But he would definitely light it up. He'd be like Drew Brees or Peyton Manning, somewhere in that ilk. But anyway, peace.